Happy 4th of July weekend. I hope that everybody has plans to spend with their family. And if you have to work, that's okay too, baby. Get that money. This is my review of The Sopranos, and I am on season one, episode three. So, let's get into it. So, Chrissy and Brandon returned the truck. The truck that Brandon took. The truck that Brandon took after Chrissy told him that he wasn't going to do it and he didn't think that he should do it. So, in the next scene, Junior is being told by Mikey that the truck has been returned, but then he tells him that the guy said to thank Tony, and this upsets Junior because there's that power dynamic thing that's going on between the both of them, where Uncle Junior feels like he's the oldest and he should be the one who's acting boss. He's already been passed over. He was already playing second fiddle to Tony's father. So, that from the past, and then in the future having to fight with your nephew about a power dynamic, he's salty. But this episode shows why he wasn't asked to be, and that is because he is easily influenced. And we see it right here in this scene because Mikey says to him that Chrissy and Brandon should have been whacked, they should have been taken care of. Now, as a mobster, of course, this is something that ran across Junior's mind, but he knows the relationship with Chrissy and Tony, so he didn't want to react that way. But him saying it to him, Mikey saying it to him, it does start a chain of events that shows that he is easily influenced. In the next scene, Tony is waiting for his session with Dr. Melfi, and he notices a picture of trees on the wall while he's waiting. And he sees the trees as they are rotting. And of course, this correlates with the things that is going on around him. But instead of him focusing on that picture once he's in his session, he talks about Jackie. And this is when we learn that Jackie is also an acting boss because the original boss, an older guy, is in jail. And he's also talking about how hard it is to see him in the hospital because Jackie is one of his best friends. In the next scene, Tony visits Jackie in the hospital, and Mikey is in there talking to him, and he is just being depressing. So the guys fill the room, and Mikey starts to feel uncomfortable, so he finally leaves, and Jackie is happy about that. Now, in this scene, Tony, Hesh, Polly, and Silvio are talking to Jackie about a situation where this Jewish guy wants them to help him with the situation with his daughter. Um, he has a percentage of the family hotel, and they want him to leave it behind once he leaves the daughter. Hesh warns him not to do business with this guy because he's a different sector of the Jewish community, and he told him that doing business with these guys is not what you think. But the mob, they don't really care about. They don't care. They just worrying about the money. And Jackie gets tired of them talking around them, considering, the man is in the hospital. He don't really care about what's going on. He's really concerned about his life. And the next scene, Meadow and Hunter are going through rich kid problems. So they're rehearsing for a recital that they have, and Meadow sings out of turn, and then they go on to converse about how the recital and a test that they have is in 1 week. So her and Hunter are feeling the pressures of being a teenager, and Meadow is just ready to get away from her family. So in the next scene, Carm and Tony goes to help Artie and Manny move into their home. And Carmilla is the biggest bird and so fake because she's telling Manny how the house is nice and how she's happy for them. And, Manny isn't privy to Carm's birdness just yet. So she tells her how, we don't kick it like we used to. Not verbatim. That's what she was telling him. Like, we're not as close as we used to. And Carmen's like, I want that to change. Fake, 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 fake. I'm going to explain how fake she is. So Tony and Artie is out in the garage, And Tony is questioning Artie about the insurance money. And Artie tells him that they are going through another review because they think that it was arson. And Tony feels bad about it because he's the reason why the club burned down. So again, he offers him money, but Artie doesn't want his money because, of course, his wife doesn't want him to. And although sometimes it could seem like Artie is trying to make a decision on if he should, if he shouldn't, the morality within him keeps him from doing so. In the next scene, Tony meets with Slomo, the Jewish guy who wants them to help them with his daughter's husband. They meet at Satriel's, and Slomo is with someone else. I think might have been his son. So Slomo is telling him that his daughter is being abused by the husband, and Tony basically tells him like, I don't really care about the details. Let's talk the business portion. So he tells Tony that if he helps him, he'll give him 25% of the hotel. And the other guy that was with him was telling him like, yo, these are real street people. You really should not be doing business with these people because Slomo thinks he's going to be able to get over on the mob. And Slomo completely ignores that and goes ahead with making the deal that if y'all can get him to not take the percentage of the hotel, I give y'all 25%, which didn't make sense because you don't want the you don't want your daughter's husband to have a percentage, but you're gonna give the percentage to the mob. Okay, so after that, Silvio and Polly goes and pay a visit to the guy, and this this guy is like an example of the faith in religion, how it could help and harm. And so they're talking to him about why they are there, and he's basically telling them, man, I built this hotel up. I'm not giving up my percentage, and they intimidate him. But the intimidation was not enough for him to change how he felt about his stance on him keeping his percentage of that hotel. In the next scene, this is when Carmela shows her fakeness by saying, "Oh, they're so broke." Talking about Artie and Manny. Manny is one of the realest characters on the show to me, and I will explain that throughout me reviewing. So she's having a party at their house for some type of what is the word I'm looking for, and why can't I recall it? Charity. There we go. So she's doing some type of work for a charity. She's having a party for a charity. Now, Carmelo Carmilla is a very vain person. She's not doing it because she's charitable. She's doing it so that they can look good. But anyway, she wants Manny and Artie to help her with the party. That Tony is like, why are we having it? Because he knows her and he knows that she's not charitable. She's just doing it for looks. So while she's in there being fake with Tony about, well, no, while she's in there being real with Tony about how she feel about them people house, Meadow and Hunter are on the phone in her room trying to get some speed because they feel like this is going to help us to stay up so that we can study and do what we have to do as far as this recital is concerned. But whoever they on the phone with, they ain't got it, right? Okay. So in the next scene, Carmilla invites Manny over, and to me, she is flaunting her life in front of her. Um, and in this scene, Carmilla does something that's going to help Manny to see that this girl is a bird and she playing in her face. So apparently the maid didn't dust off something correctly, and so she does this hand movement to her and was like, I want this place to sparkle. And then she turns to Manny and said, she's really good. She's from Poland. Like, bitch, I got a maid and you don't have a maid, you know? And those people from Poland, they clean very well. Just, oh my goodness, child. I just she was not one of my favorite characters, I'll tell you what. Chrissy has his own place. And Brandon is over as well as Aid. So Meadow stops by to ask him if he could cop some speed from her because they can't find it anywhere else. Now Chrissy says, hell no. But she threatens to go to the black neighborhood to get it. And she left out saying it. Now, while they was asking, Brendan was more than willing to give them the drugs. But Chrissy, Like, nigga, this is my little cousin. So she threatens to go to the black neighborhood, and he was telling her, like, man, them folks will rob you, do you all kinds of bad. You know how people feel about certain communities. Um, and so Ada's like, bro, you can't let her go down there. She was basically saying, like, they'll sell her some fake shit. They're not gonna give her the real shit. So this is what makes him eventually give it to her. He just told her not to tell her dad. So in this episode, we're seeing how bad how hurt Tony is about Jackie being in the hospital, and so he goes to get a girl from the strip club, from Silvio strip clubs, and takes her back so that she can give Jackie a good time. You know, get his rocks off while he's in the hospital. And the next scene, he's telling Dr. Melfi about how he was able to make his friend happy. And then he asks her thoughts on his condition. And Melfi is a psychiatrist, so she knows some medical things, but not all. But she's told him that she would need to know what's going on with him in order for her to at least give her opinion. So he explains to her that he has cancer and is in his intestines, and they had to, I think they might have had to remove, it has something to do with his private part area. And Jackie's lack of intelligence when it comes to wanting to live and not allowing your pride to get in the way, or you wanting to be intimate with people to get in the way. If he didn't allow that to get in the way, the character probably would have lived longer. But it was close to something that he didn't want them to have surgery on. And so Dr. Meth was like, "Oh, I see." And this again made Tony upset because she was like, "Well, it doesn't sound good." And then he gets mad at her, like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "Dude, you asked her for her opinion, and the way that you talking, it don't sound good." And then he went on to romanticize about Jackie and how beautiful he is, and how he didn't understand that he was being sick. That he didn't understand why him, basically. Now it's interesting that Jackie had cancer in his intestines because we carry a lot in our stomach. Um, that's one of the chakras that's normally skipped over. Everybody's always concerned with the heart, which you should be concerned with all of them, you know. But we carry a lot in our stomach, and from what I've seen from watching the seasons of The Sopranos, this is something that, like I've said this in other videos, that we don't think about, is that yes, they're doing horrible things, but for the sake of studying human nature, I'm pretty sure that Jackie's condition got the way that it was because of him being the mob boss and him having to make decisions on killing people. And they are killing people that they know, and most of the time it's people that they grew up with. But that person did something that goes against the rules of the mob, so I have to take them out. And I found that interesting, how that is where how they wrote, where they wrote um, into this scene, him having it in his intestines, because it does, like I said, it speaks to him holding all of that stress in there to the point where it started to kill him. But anyway, Tony gets upset that, she said it didn't sound good, to the point that he just got real angry. And then she says to him, she's like, "You're angry. Angry. Who are you really angry with?" But like I said, he keeps going on this rant about Jackie, about him looking happy. And then he brings up the tree, the rotten tree. And she tells him that the the picture of the tree is not, it's not, the trees aren't rotten. And he was like, "Oh, I knew you put that out there to mess with our mind." I verbatim what he said, and then he gets angry and he walks out. But the reason why he walked out is because he knew that they were getting to a turning point and that she would be able to get more out of him, him being honest with his emotions, so he left. Because, ultimately, Tony was smart. He's a very smart, kind man. In the next scene, Manny calls out Artie for being jealous of the Sopranos' money. And he told her that Tony asked if he needed some money, and she made it known that she does not want him to take money from him. And I totally get that. Like, you don't need that money from them. That money comes with problems. So he's like, "Well, you accepted the job from Carmela." And she was like, "Yeah, and it's a party for," I don't know if she verbatim said it was a party for charity, but she was like, "This is different." And at this point, she's still not privy to Carmela's burdens. So, in the next scene, we're at the party. And Manny is going around and doing what she's doing, handing out food to people. Now, let me pause while I get into this, because this this is another reason why I call Carmela a bird. Ultimately, what the issue is that Carmela is jealous of this lady because she actually has a life. She actually has a purpose. She's doing things. Her and her husband works together. He's not hiding things from her. And although Manny might have been walking around holding a tray and feeding people, she was doing it from the business that her and her husband owns. Meaning that people like harm will look at people like that like they're beneath them, but it's her business. Like, yeah, she may be serving the food, but it's her money 100%. She had a choice to tell you yes or no. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, they Artie and Manny are Manny are in a better position in life than Tony and Carmela, even if Tony has a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, what's really going on is she's jealous of this woman because she really would like to have her life. But anyway, she's talking to somebody, Carmela. Maine is out here doing her thing, and then she does the hand signal to Manny. And this is when she is able to see that Carmela is a bird and that she is playing in her face. And she knew that she was going to have to put her in her place because Manny's character was not one who didn't say what was on her mind. So Silvio and Polly in the next scene is trying to get the daughter's husband to get the divorce without the hotel percentage, but this guy is not budging. And again, I go back to what I said about religion, faith. It can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, and sometimes it's just quite crap. So he's not budging. They doing everything. It gets to the point where they like, "Bro, we're gonna have to kill you," and he like, "I kill me because I'm not gonna change my stance." So now Silvio and Polly is like, "Oh, what do we do?" Because we can't kill him because that's not what the folks want. But I mean, so they call Tony, and Tony is with his Russian Gumar, and they like, "Bro, we don't know what we gonna do. We need your help." So Tony, he go down there to help him, and they stand over him and they're talking to him and they're having a back and forth. And the guy was like standing on big business with his faith. He was talking about how his people fought the Romans and where they're now. And Tony was like, "You looking at them because Romans, Italians. This is not a history lesson, but if you born in the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. If you pay attention to school, anyway." So Tony's like, well, let me call Hesh, another Jewish guy, and see what advice he'd give me. So Hesh told him, he said, well, if y'all not gonna kill him, I know one thing a man don't want to live his life without. So they go threaten him with cutting off his member, and they were able to get him to not take the hotel position. I don't even think he divorced the wife. I think he eventually stayed because I remember seeing his character again. But either way, the Jewish guy who came to them for help, he got what he wanted. So in the next scene, Manny is helping Carmilla put away the dishes from the charity party, and Carmilla is yapping. And Manny is just doing her part of her job, coming to get her things that she had over there to put food in. She's just doing her job. But she's pissed that Carmilla treated her like she was beneath her. And she's quiet. She's not talking to her. She's just basically coming to get her stuff and to go home. But Carmilla, who, pause it for a second. Throughout watching The Sopranos, I could see that Carmilla really loved to hear people doing bad in life because she wasn't happy with her life. So she got off on listening to people tell them about the things that they were going through, and then she'd play that woo 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 reference to Sinclair, the Living Singles Baby. 80s baby. Anyway, so she's basically like, oh, Manny, she thought she seen a sad look on her face, and she was like, oh, you know, you guys had to, she didn't, this is not verbatim, y'all. You guys had to downsize, and it's gonna get better. But that ain't why Manny was quiet. Manny was quiet because she was trying not to cuss you out in your own house. And when she said that, Manny was like, okay, let me gut punch this. So Manny told her, I'm fine with how my life is, baby. Then she said, I need to tell you something. You know that time you went out of town or whatever, and you and Tony was going through a hard time? I slept with him. And, you know, I didn't necessarily like it. And so I'm okay with my choices. So basically, what she was telling her is good. I could have had your life. I had your man. And I realized it was something that I didn't want, and I stepped away from it. So please believe me when I say I'm happy. I could have had your life, and I didn't choose it. And I'm happy with my choices. And and Carmilla was just standing there dumbfounded, and I love every bit of it. Now the first time I saw it, I was I wasn't even 21, and I was looking at it like Manny was being the hate, but she's not. Carmella's unhappy with her life, and she wants everybody else to be unhappy with their lives, and that's not the case. That's not the case, baby. I love that scene so much because somebody had to put her in her place. Somebody had to, because she just was on her high horse, feeling all good because the woman that you're jealous of, because she actually has a life and a career. You found you something happened in her life, and you took that as an opportunity to feed your ego from you being unhappy in your life, and she was able to make her stand there and look a dumbfounded. She couldn't even respond. Man, it got her stuff and went to her car to put her stuff up. Easily one of my favorite characters. So in the next scene, the eldest Jewish guy, Slow Mo, he tries to back out of the deal. And guess what he uses? Religion. His religious beliefs. He doesn't say that, but he's like, y'all didn't do it right. Y'all threatened this man with XYZ. That wasn't right. But pause. What you thought the mob was gonna do, baby? This is the mob. Didn't your son tell you when you went to them for help that you don't want to get into business with these people because these are real street people. These are real thugs. You think you a thug? You think you a thug? These are real thugs. And so he go to him and tell him like, I can't give you 25% of my hotel because of the way that you did things. But then he had an envelope of money, trying to give it to him and take this. He's telling Tony, you just take this right here. This is for your trouble. And see, Tony was insulted, and I would have been too. Because the reason why I did it is because you offered me 25% of your hotel, which means I'm going to have consistent money coming in. But you want to give me this one little payment like I'm stupid, trying to play on me? And Turner basically like roped him up and like, listen, you keep this money, baby. You said 25% of the hotel. That's what we getting. And he's like, you're evil. He calls him a Frankenstein. Now that insulted Tony too. But he just basically told him like, bro, 25% of this hotel mine. Basically, you better hope I don't make it 100%. So Tony visits Jackie after this to talk to Jackie about what has happened. To talk to him about them having to threaten to clip homeboys, neither regions and whatnot. But Jackie is getting sicker, and he is like totally out of caring about what's going on in the mob life. He's now focusing on his health, and I'm pretty sure he's questioning himself about him not getting that freaking surgery. Now he's caring about how he's doing. He's hoping that he can. He's hoping that things can get better. But also, I feel like there was a part of Jackie's character who was tired of the mob life. I believe if his character would have ran on, he probably would have been one of the people who would have eventually snitched. If he would have beat cancer, I don't know. It's just from the scenes I see, especially this scene where he wasn't even really concerned with what was going on anymore. And this made Tony sad, and he was trying to ignore the fact that this man is sick. You know, it was like I want to ignore this, but also I see it and it's making me sad. In the next scene, Uncle Junior visits Liv, Tony's mother, and he asks her advice about how to handle the situation with Christopher and Brandon. And she tells him that she cares for Chrissy. Uh, she says Tony loves Christopher, and so does I. And she speaks about her love of him and for the things that he's done for her, naturally, for Liv. She was like, so you can't, basically, she was telling him, you can't do anything to Christopher. But that Brandon boy, I don't know him. So if you want to whack him, cool. Maybe scare Christopher. Don't do anything to Christopher. Scare him. But don't do anything to Brandon. And Uncle Julian was like, again, another part of this episode that shows the reason why they didn't want him to be the acting mob boss, because he was easily influenced. He couldn't make this decision based off of what he knew, his knowledge of him being in the mob and what would be the right thing to do for things to go the correct way. He allowed Mikey to influence him so much to where he went and talked to Liv about what he should do, and then she told him. He didn't make the decision. So and Junior's like, you're smart. And she's like, oh no, I'm a babbling idiot. That's why my son put me in the home. Liv is mad at Tony for putting him in the home. And so mad that throughout the seasons, throughout me reviewing this season, if you haven't watched the show, you'll see what I'm saying. Like, she was extremely upset with him for doing that. And again, like I said, this shows the weakness of Uncle Junior because he's no mob boss. And the next scene, Tony talks to Melfi about Jackie, and he also tells her how Slow Mo called him a Frankenstein. And he talks about their religious beliefs and how far out they are. This sector of the Jewish community, like how old boy was willing to die before he would actually not want to take that percentage of that hotel. And then he shifts back to Jackie and how it was hard for him to watch a man that he admired just wither away. And then they started conversing about, life. And she asked him if he felt like a Frankenstein, somebody who is void of human emotion. And Tony wasn't really able to answer that. And I feel like that's because Tony knows that that's who he is. Like me watching his character grow throughout seasons, this is one of the reasons why I say that Mr. Chase has to be an occultist. He has to have studied a lot of esoteric knowledge because ultimately I felt like this about Tony's character. I feel like Tony. I have to be careful what I say because some knowledge, as I've grown spiritually, I've understood there are some things that you just can't tell everybody, right? Right. But Tony knew that a lot of the things that humans are taught on how to be, you know, the rules that were created to keep humanity from basically killing each other more than what we see today. I think that he understood that it was bullshit because he would do the things that would go against religious beliefs and nothing happened to him. And there is a reason for that, right? Um, and I could go on and on about religion being created to keep humans from being godlike. And in some cases, it's like, I understand. But then when you think about the things that we go through, then I also be like, I wish that it wasn't that way. But that's how I ultimately feel like Tony's character absolutely was voided of human emotions. He knew how to turn them on and he knew how to turn them off. And then sometimes in scenes you can see where he would be human Tony and then some mob shit would happen and he would completely like he was a great actor because he knew how to completely turn it off and become that Frankenstein person who there's an episode that's going to happen in season, it may be 2 or 3, where I'll go into where Tony was doing a lot of separating from the Tony that's around Carmilla or his homeboys when they having a good time versus when Tony is out here in these streets. Okay. So that's why he didn't say anything because ultimately Tony knew. Tony knew. That's why it insulted him when the man said it because he's like, somebody is clocking my MF and T. So the next scene shows Tony at Meadows' recital. And while they are enjoying Meadows' recital, Junior takes the time to send some Frenchmen to scare Christopher, which was a funny scene because it was funny, but it also shows how some people what people go through when they're put in that type of position, having two people with guns pointing at you. You could literally your body just loses its functions, and he pooped on himself. But Brandon, they went to his apartment and shot him in the eye. Mo Green special. This scene was it was similar to the scene in The Godfather where oh, what is his name? What is this character's name? Mikey. Well, Michael is at his nephew's christening, or he was about to be his godfather. I think she made him to be the godfather, and then they went around, and then he sent people to go around and kill all the people who was causing problems and whatnot. Of course, it's similar. So him shooting Brandon in the eye, it's the same as like the scene where Mo Green, I think it was Mo Green, he was on a table and the guy shot him in the eye through his glasses. But yeah, so while they're doing that, Junior is calling himself handling the business by scaring Christopher and killing Brandon. So this is one of my favorite episodes because, like I said, it spoke to a lot of the characters' characteristics. It showed the reason why Uncle Junior was looked over as being a mob boss because he's easily influenced. It shows Christopher's lack of leadership when it came to Brandon because he should have done more to keep him from going out to steal that truck, and it caused him to be scared shitless. We got to see how the beginning of how Tony was able to cut on and cut off his emotions. Just a little bit was shown in this episode. And it also was the, we've found out that he was insulted by the word Frankenstein because ultimately that is who Tony turned out to be in each season, being voided of human emotions, knowing how to turn it on and turn it off. And I have to choose my words wisely because I have to remember that I'm talking to humanity. But in a way, it's something to admire. I wouldn't want to be somebody who's like that, but as an occultist, it's something that can be admired. Um, we find the beginning of Carmela being a bird and not a good friend, and seeing her insecurities of her not being happy with her life, and so when she sees someone else going through something who she's jealous of, it gives her like it makes her feel good. And yeah, let's see what else did we learn in this. Oh, and we also, or for me, it was also me learning that, and this was years on down the road when I was going through my spiritual path and I was able to understand things. This episode is the reason why I said this man, he definitely has studied occult knowledge and esoteric knowledge. He absolutely had to, because we learned we learned about faith, and how religion can be crap. How people will use religion when they feel like they need to in order to get something or to get out of something. With slow mo, how he went to a mob and asked them to help them, and then he gets upset when they do mob things, and then he tries to use him being an elder in his religion as a way for him to tell them, well, I'm not going to give you the 25%, I'm just going to give you this money, thinking Tony was going to be like, oh, okay. I did not understand that, but that's what religion does. That it makes people delusional. It makes people delusional in their decision making and how they expect people to react to them just because of that faith. So this episode, like I said, it's one of my favorite episodes. And I absolutely enjoyed recording myself reviewing it. So now it is, what time is it? It is 12:03 in Central Time. My family is still asleep. I'm about to get ready to go and wake them up because I got to get my children's hair done and do my husband's hair as well, and get ready for me to enjoy my in-laws and to enjoy life. I hope that everybody is doing something today. And to my fellow Black Americans who feel like that the 4th of July isn't a day that we should celebrate, I say to you, who built this country, baby? Do you think that our Caucasian Americans built this country by themselves? No. Be proud of where you're from. I am a proud Black American. Proud. No racist person could make me feel differently. Ever, 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 ever. Celebrate Juneteenth. celebrate the 4th of July. And I'm going to say this too. This year was the first year that I actually celebrated Juneteenth because I got outside myself. But if you can celebrate a holiday that is really a holiday for Texas, if you can celebrate a holiday of our Texas cousins just not learning about slavery ending and all the things that could come with that fact, you can celebrate the 4th of July. You can. Black American culture is king. I wouldn't argue with anybody about that. That's not me being stuck into my ego. It's a fact. Everybody doing what we doing. We're Black Americans. Be proud of that. All right, peace. See y'all in season 1, episode 4. Enjoy your holiday weekend.